Welcome back to Sika Strength and welcome back to the Sika Stand News Show. Today's news show is brought to you by the Strength and Conditioning Camp in May and the Sika Strength Weightlifting Camp in May, also in the south of Portugal in Praia de Luz. Details are on the screen and in the link below. Now, starting off with Olivia Reeves' triple bodyweight squat, and I think a lot of people would have been mad if we left this one out, but this is absolutely insane numbers to be moving, and with that quality of technique as well.
Yeah, I think the massive squats in weightlifting are kind of a thing of mystique. You know, you'll hear about certain athletes squatting certain weights, or you'll have heard of the no squat. I actually think this is of the same kind of caliber, same kind of level. This is definitely an all-time squat that people are going to talk about for a long time. Triple body weight is a massive marker, obviously, for anyone to be hitting, but just the absolute weight being so high here, I think, makes it even more impressive.
You know, I actually didn't say this specific weight, but it's 218 kilos. 218 kilos.
Nearly 500 pounds.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's she's a 73 kilo lifter. This was done, I think, sometime last week. So if she's doing the competition in Thailand, that means she's very, very close to her competition body weight. So to do this near the end of its training cycle is incredibly valuable for her lifting, of course, to be peaking like this, but also very, very impressive on top of that, considering how close competition she is. She must be very, very fatigued with training, and, you know, 218 kilos.
Yeah.
That's, this might be the biggest squat we've seen from a non-super female lifter in a long time. I don't think we've seen any heavier squats.
Yeah, I actually can't think of any. There's definitely some. No, I don't think there are.
I think this is the heaviest non-female super squat on video, actually.
To consider how young she is as well, things are looking great.
The only person I could think of would be Boyanka or Nadez from Russia, but I don't think we saw that heavy. I'm just going to look for that. Next up, we've got Anton Pnoy snatching 162.5 from low blocks. Anton is full-time CrossFitter now, and I think he's made the quarterfinals. He tells me he's somewhere in the 80 kilos body weight, kind of lower 80 kilos body weight. He's absolutely shredded at the moment. Said he hasn't lifted this much weight in over 2 years, so geez, like if you consider what even the 81s are snatching or the 89s are snatching, this is very, very impressive. I think he weightlifts once or twice a week currently, so that's some maintenance of that on top of all the conditioning and CrossFit he does.
What I really love about this is, so Anton, obviously an unbelievably diligent athlete, phenomenal weightlifter in his time, but he does things very, very simply. You'll see him doing all his CrossFit training during the week, incredibly diligent with all that, and then it is literally snatching once a week and clean and jerking once a week. He's very open, you see all of his training, and he holds on to his numbers so well. The other thing that really stands out is a lot of time we get weightlifters leaving weightlifting, going to CrossFit or doing something else or just a different training modality because of the change of like body size and just losing a bit of that specific strength. We tend to see a degradation in technique, whereas Anton has held on to all of that sharpness, all of that technical prowess.
Yeah, he is obviously a serious technician, is one of the things people loved him for, on top of the weights he was lifting, but he was so sharp with the technical model, and obviously getting coaching from him in weightlifting, he is outrageously diligent with the tactical changes and the focus on the minutiae of technique, you know, and it's something you've been saying for a long time, that we're always like, technique, especially in weightlifting, is the way to be the best lifter you can be, to maximize your strength and all your capacities, whether it's a 100 kilo snatch or 160 kilo snatch. You know, superb technical model is the best way to get there. It's so important. Now, speaking of superb technical model on squatting, we have Toshiki with another squat video. I'm so glad we're seeing fresh squat videos from Toshiki. 200 kilos here for sets of 5 again, and he is in a belt and no sleeves here, and he seems to be wearing, is that a special edition version of the tier lifters?
I think it's his special edition version.
That's pretty cool.
Which is pretty sick.
That's pretty sick.
I think it's pretty safe to say that of all weightlifters squatting, Toshiki is the person that people are most excited to see squatting again.
Yes.
I think he's definitely up there. He's definitely on that Mount Rushmore of Olympic weightlifters squats. So I wonder if he's going to peak or if this is just a kind of dipping the toes in the water again. Obviously that injury was quite severe. But no matter what it is, even if we never see more than 200 kilos, I'm still delighted to see him squatting again.
You did point out that if you look at his left leg, which is the one he had the operation on, and he, as far as you know, still has pins in there. you can see him lifting up his toe, maybe to relieve some pressure, maybe to adjust. So it obviously still bothers him a bit from what we know. So hopefully it can continue to heal. Those kind of things can take a long time, and as people do get those pins and strips taken out, so usually that's a good sign if something like that happens. So hopefully Toshiki can, get a bit of relief from pain if he still is in pain. And we'd all like to see him obviously squat 300 kilos or more again. So here's hoping for Toshiki.
You'd have to think as well, as long as that kind of mechanism of action that caused the injury has gone away and that injury is healed, squatting would have to be good for that bone density as well.
Yes.
It would have to be. There's just no way it's not. As long as it's not getting re-injured, you'd think it would be beneficial.
Now, on to the training hall in Thailand at the President's Cup, I think it's called. Basically, it's the last chance qualifier for the Olympics. And here is, starting off with Miso with 180 kilo snatch, and I was blown away by this 180. So Miso's best is like 182, but this is definitely the easiest he's ever made a 180 look as far as I can remember.
Yeah, his snatch is really improving a lot. Like, it's getting so much better, so much sharper, so much more consistent. I think Miso is someone we've really seen. Like, obviously we did the reaction to the 85 kilo class in Rio. That video came out last weekend, and we saw Miso there as a much, much younger athlete. Obviously a lot lighter, but also just a much more kind of naive and smaller person. He's really grown into his frame in the last 7 years, 8 years.
So he said initially when he moved up that he felt pretty slow in the heavier class, and he also experienced some knee pain. So sometimes when people move up in class, they kind of expect the gains immediately. Now, I'm not saying Miso did, but I'm just saying in general. So you don't really see that transition usually on your snatch when you move up. Sometimes people's snatches get worse. They get slower, technique gets worse, they lose mobility. So you'll see those immediate gains onto your back squat, for example, or pretty soon after, in a very acute time frame. But when you move up in weightlifting, clean and jerk can go pretty fast, or the clean and jerk sometimes actually doesn't move that much. And then sometimes we'll see the snatch get slightly worse. We'll see a bit more power, obviously a bit more pizzazz in the snatch, but you won't see the immediate gain. So sometimes it can take months to really transform that, especially when you're at such a high level that, it takes a while for him to get used to speed again, get used to positions. Maybe it might take going back down and coming back up again, which is what he did in one case like 2 years ago. He said he dropped a few kilos and went back up again. So it's a very precise process for those big weights.
The last thing and the really positive thing on this point is that Miso is very, very good at competition. And I just see on the post here, talk about this being the heaviest snatch he's ever done in the training hall. Miso brings it on competition day. So hopefully we're going to see something even bigger when he goes to his third attempt.
So breaking the seal on the competition, we have the first class 45 kilo women, and Wang Hyun Sim snatched 87 kilos and she clean and jerked 104 kilos. 109 kilos, apologies. And this is North Korea coming in, setting 2 world records, just all-time world records, 3 world records, snatch, clean and jerk, and total. And this is, it upsets people for some reason when North Korea's set world records.
Yeah.
Not really sure why. Well, I am sure why. I actually know exactly why. But it's still world records. It's superb technique from Wang as well.
And that's the standout thing on both of these lifts, is how good the technique is. Obviously, in previous years, we've seen a different or slightly different technical model, the kind of pigeon stance, very, very knees out to the side. We don't see that now, and a lot of our lifters are changing over to the better technical model, the more standardized technical model, the one that everything else is based off. And it really is paying off for them. Obviously, there's the myriad of reasons that people get mad about this, but you can't deny how good these lifts are, how good the numbers are, how consistent it is. We're not seeing the athletes injured on the platform like we've seen in previous years, or athletes who really look to be physically struggling. So it's undeniable. They're phenomenal world records.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're very good lifting. The technique is superb as well. Now, we've got Tian Tao in the training hall, so he's front squatted 260, and he had the worst thing happen, whereas you miss the rack, which is brutal. It's bad enough on back squats, but when it happens on front squats, it is a nightmare. Kudos to those safety pins doing their job. I always I take them off immediately.
Yeah, I was just thinking of where those safety pins are from my squat racks.
But that's why you need them. That's the worst feeling in weightlifting.
That's walking to the top of the stairs with the light off and missing the last step. You know, that feeling in the pit of your stomach.
It's actually second only to your strap breaking on a snatch.
Oh my God. He has the double up here of walking backwards into the rack as well.
Yeah, that is.
So everything is already, he's worried about tripping over that bar behind. Everything is going against him here.
But, you know, I don't know who that coach is, but what the fuck was he doing? That his sole job was to make sure he got back into the rack. This highly valuable athlete, and he was guiding him back in, and he still missed the rack.
Yeah. But his hand is on the bar.
Yeah, that's room to get fired.
Yeah.
That's your one job. Guide Tian Tao back into the rack. Don't let him get hurt.
If ever there was an argument for specificity of training equipment to competition equipment, obviously a lot of the time they're squatting with those kind of curved blocks, you know, and they use those in the training hall all the time.
Oh yeah,
reasons for it, reasons against it, whatever. But if you're going to be training the 10 days before a competition, every time you do a competition, and the equipment's going to be different, surely it would make sense to just use this kind of squat rack they're going to be using.
Yeah, but I suppose doesn't mean for squat racks does it even make a difference after. It's probably irrelevant. Next, we've got Ratmat Irwin, so the 73 kilo sensation, the Xiang assassin, maybe, who knows. So we had this 200 kilo clean and jerk in the training hall, most noticeably with straps, and this looked very blasé, very casual, pedestrian. Give me another adjective.
Easy.
That was a shit adjective.
My big thing here is when you consider how close it is to the world record.
Yes, his world record.
His world record. What in God's name is going on? Like, what are we going to see this time around? Surely he's not going to set another world record a number of months out from the Olympics. That would make no sense.
Is that an anti-Team China long sleeve as well? That is. That's.
I don't know if it's Team China, but it is.
That's
it is Team China.
That's psychological warfare. Yeah. That is.
I can only hope as well he didn't get that gifted. That he went and like ordered that online and just showed up wearing it.
So Ratmat's technique is obviously quite interesting. It's really only at his super maximal technique that we see this kind of weird hip shift, and he doesn't do it at lower weights, but he's got extreme levels of external rotation in his shoulder. It's such a nice overhead position in terms of his shoulder position. It's so solid. And obviously the straps are for a couple of reasons. One is to save his hands. Two, it is to give him a bit extra mobility in that position. So you can see his bicep, tricep, upper arm is almost parallel with the floor at the bottom of that squat. And so it's a great way of training that rack position. It is, however, quite stressful on the tissues and the joints. So if you're not used to it, and you go do some full clean and jerks with straps on, it's going to be pretty sore. Even if you do some front squats and you don't have a huge amount of range of motion in your shoulders, you know, supination, pronation, your forearm, in your lats, your thoracic, it's very, very sore on particular places, but it is a good way of stretching those out. But for him, it's probably saving his hands. On top of that, then in the clean, it does give you an opportunity just to reef on that bar a little bit more, which is kind of testament to his heavier clean and jerks. So I wonder is it a roundabout way of training that, but if he's doing 200 in the training hall at competition body weight in the training hall, like what is he going to do in terms of in competition?
I think one thing you can take from him, obviously you're probably not clean and jerking 200 kilos at 73 kilos body weight, but one thing that a lot of people get wrong is they wait way too long in between the clean and jerk. And I've watched this video 4 times now just to make sure there isn't a stitch or not some good editing going on here, but there is no break between the clean and jerk.
He's almost borderline breaking the rule.
Almost.
But
if you're an amateur weightlifter, you should be trying to break every rule you possibly can. Get those kilos up.
Testing rules. So next we've got the Tominator Loredana from Romania, snatching 110 in the training hall and clean and jerking 130. Now, snatch looks amazing. Clean looks like she could clean 150, but it does need to be said with all due respect that jerk does look to be getting nearly worse.
It definitely looks like it's kind of leaning into that non-ideal technique more.
But her snatch looks better than ever, I would think.
100%. This is very close to all-time max numbers in the snatch, you know? Like a handful of kilos off it. Her weightlifting is improving. She looks more powerful, faster, in great shape. But it just like that technical quirk from the jerk just seems to be getting more and more pronounced.
It might just need to be acknowledged maybe that it's just not in her to fix that. Like it just could be a technical quirk where is just not fixable. I would think it has to be. But maybe, looking at this, obviously the coaches know what they're doing. They're obviously great coaches from a very strong weightlifting nation. You know, it'd be silly of people to think that they weren't trying to fix it. But there's obviously a reason it can't be fixed, and we just don't really know why. The snatch looks amazing. It's getting more consistent, more casual at that. You know, the world records in the late teens, might even be close to 120.
Is it 118?
Maybe it might be 118. So she, you know, the clean looks genuinely like she can clean 150 pretty casually. So hopefully she can figure something out with that jerk, because it is letting her down. But unfortunately, because she's a fan favourite and a great lifter to boot.
100%, yeah.
Next, we've got Luis Mosquera and we've got Jason Lopez. Now, Luis is a 73. He hasn't quite been the same since Rio, but he seems to be coming back in pretty good shape. So he's got this 150, 180 as a 73. And Jason Lopez is an absolute dynamite lifter. This 170, 200 at 89 is crazy. This isn't the first 170 he did in the training hall. There was another 170 he did just as soon as the training hall opened. But I think Jason is going to set a snatch world record.
I think it's fairly safe to say that these two lads are the two fastest lads there.
Yes.
And the place that speed comes in for me is the speed of the pull under, kind of on the snatch, but mainly on the clean. They teleport underneath the bar.
But in the snatch, both of them have the speed. Where it really matters is in the last second half of the second pull.
Yeah.
And the extension. They're super aggressive in the extension and absolutely still hitting full extension, sitting a long extension, but they are just absolutely sending warp speed into the barbell.
When you talk about like technical quirks or whatever in the jerk, doing that hand shift out is so difficult. I've seen so many people try it.
Hard enough to clean jerk 200 kilos.
Like, it's hard enough to have that weight on your chest, like,
Yeah.
and then just boop, boop, whack out. It's unbelievable.
So Jason's snatch is, he did 180 in competition and didn't take a third attempt at the last competition he did. Now, the Pan Ams. So his clean and jerk is as of yet unknown. We haven't seen him push it. I don't think he's a 220 clean and jerker right now. Maybe he will be in the future, but he is certainly in the 180 snatching. So I think he could be a bit of a dark horse for gold if things go wrong for the lads. I'm going to say he's probably bronze at Paris, if I had to guess right now.
It should be said as well that somebody in his position is very likely to get a medal as well, due to the fact that how inconsistent lifters are in competition.
Well, especially at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So nobody panic, but here is Xiang missing 150 in the training hall. Comes back and makes it, does that weird kind of thing where he drops it early on the 150. He looks to be in great shape. I'm told he's done some big lifts in training. I thought all Chinese lifters have, apparently, which I'd love to see, but maybe we won't ever see those videos, if there is even videos of them. But this 150, he looks to be in old Xi shape. This is like the physicality.
Oh, this is peak.
Any other lifter, you would be like, oh, that's really bad. But for him, it doesn't tell you either way. It doesn't tell you if he's in great shape or not in great shape. It just doesn't tell you anything.
No, that's what I was about to say. You have no idea. You've no idea what's coming on today. He does look to be, and like, obviously physique and weightlifting is its whole other thing, right? But he definitely does look to be more physically developed, or definitely back in phenomenal shape now. He's never been out of shape, but he's in insane nick here.
Crazy nick.
Yeah.
But if you look at all of Team China, they're all absolutely shredded at the moment. It's definitely the leanest they've been.
Yeah.
Like Tian Tao looks like the leanest he's been.
Noticeably, yeah.
It's incredible to maintain that performance. Now, speaking of Tian, again, we've got some snatches here. First one at 150 is essentially a power snatch, and then we've got a couple of singles. Most interesting thing about this is that you actually used to never see Chinese athletes snatch just from the floor with straps on. You'd see them do with pulls, obviously. You'd see them doing, if they're doing hang variations or block pulls, they'd use straps. But very interesting to see him snatching from the floor with the straps on.
Yeah, it is. I wonder what that's coming from. Is it to get a bit more speed on that pull under like you were talking about? Is it just to save him a bit? The big thing here for me is that first rep, just how fast it is. That's, if he wanted that, that's a power snatch.
It looks like he has recovered well, like we were kind of hoping he would and thought he would be capable of, in terms of very, very close to what he could do after that shoulder surgery. So look at these 150s. It's actually a good thing because it doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
you have no idea what the max is here. Like if you were to look at this, if he was in very good shape, or assuming he was no problems in the lead up to this, you'd say this is 175 or so, pretty casual for him, or possibly for him. But now with this, and actually last one was 160, I think, was it?
Oh, I didn't see that.
That might be 160 actually, looking at the last one. So looking very good. Obviously the straps do help him. He has said in the past that he has tiny hands. So I'm really rooting for Tan of all people.
It's a big problem with Instagram as the means for the videos.
Yeah.
In weightlifting, you don't see the outside of the weights.
That's it. I really want Tan to do well.
Yeah.
I'd love if he just did like 180, 230.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, 160. So looking really good. Looking real good. Now, speaking of someone who also looks real good, we have Leo Huanhua. I asked Eland from Scott Jerk Journalist how to say his name properly. This 170 looks crazy.
My God.
3 sets as well. No straps.
No straps. I'm going to say
He's so
that
fat.
nobody's 170 looks like that at the moment.
Miso's might. Maybe not. Not quite as precise.
Not quite as precise. I feel like Miso's is definitely faster.
Yeah.
And there's more grr and like smash in it, you know. But nobody's looks quite like this. This is just calm, reserved. It's a glass of red wine with dinner. 170 stat.
But there he's fat. Look, he said he's fat, you know. There's people on social media with body dysmorphia, and they'd be like him, and be like, yeah, he's pretty fat, like this.
Visible abs at the top there.
And he seems to have all these visible abs. Like he's just not Xiang level. There's people who'd be like, yeah, he's really let himself go. There's people with social media induced body dysmorphia
Who were in terrible shape themselves.
or are just abusing themselves and him. So this 170, it looks like he's filled out the class more. Those delts really, like this 170, could he be capable of a 190 snatch?
Yes.
I think it would help him so much. But obviously he's a massive clean and jerk. Certainly, he's currently the biggest clean and jerk in the 102 class. He's certainly the 102 has done the biggest clean and jerks. I feel like the person who could do 190, 230 has got it in the bag.
Yeah, 190 gives you such an advantage going in.
I don't know if Akbar is showing up to this competition, but
I haven't seen anything of him in training hall or anything. Obviously, it's a good few days out now from their class.
Leo Huanhua's got to be one of my favourite lifters currently.
Yeah. It has to be said as well, the physique adds to that.
Yeah, the thickness.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the former section of the new show, formerly the Archer Anthropop section of the new show, now the Lee Sang section of the new show, is Lee Sang Yang doing 250 by 3. Again, now this is him at competition weight, and that's just exactly how you want a triple to look in the training hall. It's just really fast and really casual. But on top of that, this is like almost new rounds for him. Like this is certainly not 85 or 90% anymore for him, you know. So we're going to see, hopefully we get to see that massive squat from him, but this is crazy training hall lift for him at the moment.
What I really hoped was last week, like middle of last week, we would have seen him really heavy single. Obviously, massively risky the week before, a big competition for him. But I would have loved to have seen it. I would have loved to have seen that 285 or 290 or whatever it was going to be. This looks great. Even if you consider 6 months ago, doing a 250 for a triple like this for him would have been
huge.
Very maximal. Yeah.
I don't even know if he could do a triple a few months ago at 250.
I don't know.
Some progress in the squat. So that's what we're talking about. That body weight gain transfers to the squats so quickly. And then hopefully you can transfer that to the lifts. Now, next we've got onto the powerlifting section of the new show. We've got Frank Allen squatting 415 kilos. And I don't think we've ever seen Frank on the new show before. This 415 kilos is crazy. I don't know what I was expecting when I saw the video, but it was not see 415 move like this.
I certainly didn't expect it to be absolutely bottomed out as well. Mm-hmm. Like that's incredible depth for a low bar. Very, very good squat. As I was looking at this, there's a certain colour that the black matting gets. Do you know that rubber matting when it absorbs a certain amount of chalk? And you immediately know then that it's a certain caliber of training establishment, you know. It's going to be big lifts. There's going to be no bullshit, and this is an absolutely unbelievable squat.
I'd have to know what age he is because the grey hair kind of gives you a bit of, it's kind of hard to say.
Yes.
He said he thought he put 420 on, but I did not. But I'm sure he could have definitely squatted 420.
Oh, looking at that, there's definitely 420 there. Easy.
Now, here we've got a regular strength, Julius Maddox, one of the greatest bench pressers ever. Possibly he's going to be one of the heaviest. He benched 230 kilos or 505 pounds for a set of 15.
What in God's name are you even supposed to say about this?
That's crazy. I was trying to think if I could squat 230 for 15, and it would be it would be all out, balls out to squat 230 for 15 reps in good shape.
But how easy does this look? Like, he starts pausing a few of those reps in the middle.
Yeah, at the end, he always starts doing that. He pauses like the
Yeah.
later reps, which is crazy.
What is going on? This is just absolute. Like, this is the kind of lift we talk about every few weeks where you've no context when you're watching it. Like, you're looking at that weight being like, oh, it's crazy. That's 500 pounds. That's whatever. That's whoever's heaviest, whatever. But you've no idea how heavy that is to hold in your hands on a bench press.
Oh, man.
Like, that would kill someone if they unracked that.
Yeah.
Like, if you tried to do the eccentric, that would probably kill you.
Crazy lifting. 230 kilos for a set of 15. Outrageous from Julius Maddox as usual. Sticking with outrageous, we've got Nicholas Dupree squatting 440. And we were looking at the jumps here, and we were saying last week when he did that 420 that he was going to go straight to 440, like he wasn't going to mess around. And some people were doubtful that he would make such a big jump in one go, but he actually took a bigger jump. He went 410 to 440. The biggest jump here is that he goes 330 to 380.
And it's strange because you look at that 330 to 380, it's 50 kilos it's 50 kilos at 330 kilos already. It's absolutely mental. But when you look at the amount of jumps you take and the amount of warm-ups you're going to do for a maximal squat, when the weights are this big, you have to have crazy big jumps.
But even in general,
yes,
when you're going for a heavy single day, just taking big jumps is really very important if you can do it. So ensure you're warmed up. It is the more efficient way. Like, you want to waste as little energy as possible on your max days. This is the same for other days. But 440, which is crazy. Nicholas is, an absolute animal. What I really like about this as well is that none of the spotters touched the barbell or him at any point. No. There was no when people have their hands just hovering. Like, I feel like if you touch the bar at any point, if I was squatting and you spotted me and you touched the bar at all, I feel like the rep is finished. Like, it's null and void.
I'm going to say something now and it might rub some people up the wrong way.
Give me some Russells.
But I feel like a lot of the time the spotter is trying to feed off some of the energy from the big squat, Like, they're standing behind just drawing the energy off it, or standing to the side, squatting down, thinking like, this is the most important spot I'm ever going to do.
See, the thing is, these are all probably powerlifters, so they're distinctly aware of.
Yeah.
Someone sent us a video of a football player squatting 505 pounds for reps, and it was super squats, but the spotter was a teammate, and he was doing the chest spot, which is not a bad way to spot it if you know what you're doing and you can trust the lifter, but he was literally touching him. His forearm, bicep, everything was touching.
Wrapped on.
And we actually couldn't include it because it's so hard to tell how much assistance he was getting. Yeah. The squats are so impressive, but it actually just couldn't be included because it was... Look, I get it for the football player, you're trying to mind them, but it's crazy. Now, here we've got is Wang Statics is his Instagram name. He is massive. Benching 300 kilos in a commercial gym, and he is huffing that ammonia. Like, we're talking.
He's over that for a good 30 seconds.
Well, not 30 seconds, but
it's remember in the old days of YouTube and bodybuilding, there's two monsters and they used to go around and they'd eat food and stuff. And one of them used to be able to put a fork into his mouth, and he used to hold the fork like this and he wouldn't be able to put food in his mouth. Can't remember the guy's name. But he has the same thing going on there with that ammonia of barely being able to bend his elbow to bring it in.
300 kilos and just something. South Koreans have some massive lifts from their bodybuilders.
Yeah.
We'd seen those lads squatting 320 and 300 for a double. There was two of them kind of going back and forth on the squat. And someone was like, is this achievable, lad?
Oh my God.
Good sir, please.
Good sir, please.
Sir, hold those questions in. Don't say that out loud. 300 kilos, outrageous bench press. And are they those tier slipper or kind of barefoot shoes?
Oh, I've no idea. One thing when you see a comment like that, the little paper clip that used to pop up on the PC?
Yeah.
When you'd try and do something on Word, Docs or something, there should be a paper clip hop up and it would be like, sir, please. Sir, please.
Don't type. You sure you want to type this question? Now, here we've got Tavian McCarthy. So you might remember a short Darren made where we were talking about how a lot of people are ragging on him for his technique and that how his vertical wasn't actually 40. I think they said 40 or so inches in the vertical jump test, and they were using a jump mat, and people are saying he was holding his legs up, and they're saying this doesn't count, and that a load of different things. And Darrow's basically saying like that actually everything is pretty okay. And here he comes along and does 44, and it's just like, yep, there we go.
Yeah, 100%.
Just
It's
imagine you're one of those people who just talk shit in comments. I love when someone just comes along and is like, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I love that as well, because there's so many. We're making that video. We spent a bit of time looking through the comments, spent a bit of time looking at his page. Obviously, he's an incredible athlete. We're just talking about the mechanics of how a jump mat works, how these different things operate, how one of those tests might be altered, or if it really matters if the test is even being altered. And this is the big thing with in-season testing or continued testing of an athlete as they go from high school to college to pro ball or whatever it's going to be. The big thing with testing is just consistency of testing. So that in this case, if he knows his squatting or his plyo work is going to be beneficial, or if he's overtraining and maybe something isn't recovering quite as well as it should, the real important thing is that the testing is being done in the same way every time. The absolute number really doesn't matter too much. It matters to a couple of people at 1 or 2 points throughout your career, but unless you're going for that next step up or you're looking for a contract or whatever it's going to be, the absolute number doesn't matter. Like how good you are as a football player or whatever athlete is the only thing that matters. The actual metrics only probably matter twice in your entire life.
Yeah. Still interesting how people still find a chance to just moan about something. He's athletic, but can he really cover? It's just a vertical jump test. Like, shut up. Like, this generation gets excited about the wrong shit. Shut the fuck up. God. Now, here we've got an 86-year-old man, among a few others, Bob Williamson, running the 85 plus Masters 100 meter dash. He did it in 17.5 seconds. And 96-year-old Ed Cox finished 6th with a 24:04.
96 years old.
Like, the time here is completely irrelevant, because how many 85 plus year olds do you know can sprint or run fast or run even?
Just run.
Not even sprinting.
Yeah. And even if you bring it back to, like, most people watching this show, you're going to be weightlifter, powerlifter, or you train in the gym, right? And your conditioning mightn't be great. What I would say is next time you're passing a soccer pitch or a football pitch or something like that, it's probably 100 meters from end to end. Just put the timer on your phone and have a go and see how close to 17 seconds you are, because I absolutely guarantee you 17 seconds, if you're not doing any conditioning or any running, you're not going to be a whole pile faster than 17 seconds.
No, but consistency, his speed across that 100 as well is very, very impressive. So most people, if you hadn't done 100 meters, it's like you're going to start off as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And then after about 30 meters, you're going to start slowing down really quickly. Whereas he's really consistent speed.
What I really like, the noticeable thing watching this race as well is, so their gait or the length of their stride is probably the main difference that you'll see between that and the real kind of sprinters who are in their prime. And it's obviously like a difference in maximal strength, their ability to propel themselves forward. The length of stride in the kind of Olympics now, when you watch them during the summer, the 100 meter sprinters, is absolutely gigantic. They're covering meters and meters of ground with every stride, and these lads aren't. It's slightly shorter. The amount of power they're putting into the ground on each step is very, very different, but the quality of sprinting is still very good.
Is that Blaine McConnell at 86, I wonder?
I think Blaine McConnell is going to be running 12-second 100 meters.
So here we've got Marshall Hilleman cleaning 405 pounds or 82.5 kilos. So full clean. Sometimes, he didn't call this, but sometimes they call them power cleans in the football repost pages. But obviously, that's irrelevant to this. This is a 405 pound clean, and really nice clean. Very, very nice.
It's the defining thing on this lift is just how technically good it is.
Yeah.
The weight is insane. The weight, if this was the ugliest looking clean we'd ever seen on the new show, it would probably still be on the new show because the weight is so good and it's moving so quickly. But there's a couple of things technically that make this clean so good. So the first thing, barbell sweeping backwards off the floor. That tends to be a hard thing for athletes to get. They tend to want to keep their knees forward, but he does a great job of pushing his knees back and sweeping the barbell back. Second thing is that he doesn't smash the bar with his hips. He makes a very, very nice vertical extension at the top and starts pulling under early. And then the last thing for me, just good crisp foot movement, gets his feet into a good catching position. It makes all the difference.
So like weightlifters might look at this. Some weightlifters, obviously, some of them are like, oh, that's incredibly impressive, and some might be like, oh, it's just 182. But if you think about the people who would never clean 180, you know, as even if you compare weightlifters, non-professional weightlifters, like to do this as a footballer or an American football player is crazy. This mental numbers moving, and it's kind of really the upper echelon of what's going to be useful for football players. Is once you get beyond that kind of 1.5 times body weight. I know this is probably a bit more than that. It's probably over double body, I would imagine. But usually at 1.5 times for a lot of sports is usually enough. And certainly when you get into that 180 category, you know, even if you're 120 kilos, that's kind of around where you stop seeing a huge amount of benefit to it, or it's not notable extra benefits when you go heavier. So this is very, very impressive clean. Next, we got Ryan Krauser. He's doing 210 kilo slow eccentric front squats. He actually starts off with the grip on, and then I think he either chooses to take it off or the pressure forces him just to let go.
Either way, it's probably just because he's insanely strong in the front squat.
Mm-hmm.
His positions as well, it has to be said. Throwers usually have very good front squats, but their positions oftentimes, they have a bit more forward torso lean. Just they tend to be a bit more restricted, but his positions are absolutely great positions here. Like very, very vertical spine, really nice upright, a bit of upper back extension. It's a lovely looking front squat, or in this case, zombie squat.
Yeah, the knee travel over the toe, the hip mobility, the lack of major thoracic rounding in the front squat, so impressive. Ryan Krauser, obviously incredibly talented athlete, so he is, you know, always putting big lifts. He's hang power snatches. We obviously saw some of his best lifts where he squatted 330, bench 250, power snatch 160. Someone actually asked him in the comments here, like, what were you doing in high school? He said 330 pound bench and 405 squat. So as he says himself, so decently strong but nothing crazy. So obviously very good numbers for a high school athlete. Maybe I assume that was probably the latter end of his years in school. So again, it's very strong for a teenager, but not like freakish levels of strength. And then to see him now being a freak athlete is very interesting. So sometimes a lot of people think about the start point for freak athletes, especially when it comes to strength training lifts. But really, it's the end point is all that matters. You know, some people start off really strong. Some people start off really low and progress super fast. Some people start off low, progress really slow, but get there in the end. So don't ever be too concerned with your starting point. Don't ever be too concerned. Even at your rate of progress, you can make those big jumps at different points in your career. So it obviously if you start off big, you have a bigger magnitude later on. But it's not a guarantee that if you don't have it now, that doesn't mean you won't have it later. If you just started squatting and you're like 100 kilos feels heavy, like don't.
It doesn't matter.
No.
You will make progress.
Yeah, just how much progress you make is the big thing. Now, here we've got Hero Nori Nakajima, who is exclusive jump man, is what I want to call, and he's got different levels of hurdle jumping here.
In my head, he came to the forefront probably last year sometime for those weighted jumps.
Where he bangs his head?
Yeah. Jumps with considerably heavy weights and then kind of increasingly heavy weights. You'll see them if you go to his page. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sure you've seen those videos. Now, in this case, he's building up, right? So he goes level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they're just kind of arbitrary levels he's made up himself. The level 4 here is a 3 meter broad jump over are they 1 point something meter hurdles? They're tall hurdles anyway.
Yeah.
They're normal, probably male hurdle height. But very, very far apart here. And then I think he has 4 kilos in each hand, or maybe 2 kilos in each hand. It cannot...
1.06.
Yeah. It cannot be expressed how insanely impressive this is.
Insane. But the first two, like the first one, you have to... Anyone who's done hurdle jumps like this is like, holy shit, that first one's crazy. But then he's doing it single leg. all of these are incredibly impressive. Like this
Yeah.
is the distance on the level 3, then he adds weight on level 4. This is mind blowing. Like the first one itself is very, very impressive. And then the single leg stuff is something most people could never hope to do. It's crazy. Even on a height half that height to have that middle power per leg. So Hironori it's crazy because we probably haven't seen anyone train this diligently in an intelligent manner for just jumping. Obviously parkour athletes do a lot of jumping, but they're doing parkour. You know, we've obviously lots of athletes who apply metrics in jumping, but they're doing their sport. But no one's kind of specific sport like this other than we see maybe high jumpers who again are doing a specific sport, but we haven't seen anyone train just jumping like this, like a really high vertical jump for years on end specifically, who's very, very talented. He must be up there with jumping ability of anyone.
He has to be, yeah.
Now I know we see those videos of some of the hurdlers, you know, getting crazy height when they're doing their bounds, and they'd obviously do incredibly well if they were just there jumping, but this is something else about this.
The big standout thing, if you do go and watch this video and watch it with the sound on level 2, where he's doing the single leg jumps over the hurdles, the amount of force on each of those ground contacts is insane. Like you'll hear it, it's bang, bang, bang. And like he's on a track, like you know how the track sounds like, particularly when they're just wearing running shoes on a track. It's insane the amount of force that he has to generate every single time.
Now, here we've got Eddie Moore, who is the BMX rider. You remember from his very nice squats. He put up this 200 kilos for a triple high bar full depth. So this is exactly what you'd hope your athlete squats would look like if you have an athlete and you're doing S&C with them and you're like, hey, I would love if we could have a really nice squat and obviously move a heavy weight fast on top of that. And this is pretty much it. This is what you want to see.
Yeah, like all the speed, all the power, all that explosiveness is there. You see how easy the reps are for him, even at this very, very heavy weight. But it's the position. It's just how standard that position is. I feel like in the UKSCA manual, this is what a back squat is.
Yes.
This is moderate hand position, not super close, nice stacked wrist, good upper back position, moderate foot position again, just outside hip width, inside shoulder width, no crazy toes out to the side, and then very, very nice mechanics. Really nice driving the knees forward the whole way through and the knees staying forward the whole way back up. It's we've said it before and we'll say it again, a bloody gorgeous squat.
So one of the things as well you'll often see athletes will degrade first is usually the upper back position when they're doing S&C, especially at heavier weights, and there's zero change in Eddie's upper back here, and it looks like he's very diligent with that, but I assume he trains that upper back a lot because it looks like something he has a lot of upper back to be.
He looks yacked.
Yeah. Next we've got Omar Spite or Spate. He is a linebacker, starting linebacker, doing the 225-pound bench press test. He did 30 reps. What was very notable about this one was how controlled each of those reps are. Like he's obviously moving fast. Of course, you need to move fast to get 30 reps done. But sometimes you see them and they're serious slamming. But he's actually slowing down just before he touches off his chest. So they're really good quality reps. You know, he's not smashing into his chest and exploding off. Like he is really doing some kind of almost gentle touch and go on these.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a massive advantage if you're training for a combine or a pro day or something along those lines. There's a big advantage to being discontrolled. Mm-hmm. So like the reason you're getting more smashy reps or more bouncing on the chest is because obviously as guys get fatigued, they want to load up that stretch shortening cycle a bit more. They want to get all of that advantage they're possibly going to get. But the breakdown of your systems there is going to be absolutely massive. Like you might get 3 extra reps in at the end or 5 extra reps in at the end. But the advantage of doing the vast majority of the reps with that massive amount of control, just using all those muscle fibers you possibly can, and then keeping that integrity in the tendon unit for the very, very end is just going to be so beneficial. It's funny, it brings up again the kind of use of a combine or the use of those tests of physicality for a pro day or something like that for teams or possible contracts coming up that you'd test people with standardized testing. Obviously, it's great. It's very entertaining for us to watch. It's good to see stats across the board for a massive group of athletes. But 30 reps on a 100 kilo bench press doesn't really mean anything for a football player. Like it's not that metric doesn't mean something. It's a kind of hanger on from older days when it was just the only test that was easily carried out. I would hazard a guess at saying combine results across certain of these metrics don't really mean anything.
Lastly, we've got Tom Havland doing some crazy jumping. So he does one jump with a trap bar, 146 kilos. He said 5 sets of 1 at 60-second rests. Hard to see what particular height he's hitting there on those. But then he does a seated round bale jump. So bale of hay, usually about 45 to 50 inches. But he's also doing that with a 15 kilo weighted vest. And that's by far probably the most impressive jump on these, is that bale jump. He did 5 sets of 1, 60-second rest. He said the seated 60-inch box jump is a big goal of his. So he's looking to build up to that. But that's crazy, that round bale jump. So I think he said recently he was like 145-ish kilos. So plus 15 kilos is hardly necessary, but obviously massively impressive. So we'll just see the round bale jump again, which is crazy. I need some Zercher stuff in there as well, Zercher cleans.
I wonder, is he measuring using those sticks on the side or something?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just so he has to hit it each time.
Yeah, so he knows he's been consistent.
He absolutely yeets that bar up for that.
Yeah, here's the jump again. Holy shit.
Oh my God.
Levitating.
Yeah, absolutely. And wearing tactile chinos as well.
Go on.
No.
You know, when people are very good at jumping, it's almost like they're floating longer. Like, it looks like there's an extra height. It doesn't look like anything crazy happens when they leave the ground, but then they just keep going.
I also feel like as well, people who are naturally better at jumping, it always looks effortless. Mm-hmm. There's never like this massive big thing. It's just like,
yeah,
it's so efficient. It's so smooth. There's none of that kind of extraneous movement. It's funny when you ask somebody to jump as high as they possibly can, the second you start seeing all of the extra stuff that goes at all the fanfare, you're like, oh, it's probably not going to be that massive a jump.
Most people are really bad at jumping when you start doing jumps or get people to do jumping. Like, a lot of people could be better at jumping, but if you don't do a lot of jumping, for a lot of people, there's no innate talent for jumping. It's not something for you haven't been practicing. It isn't. It's not there. Thanks for watching today's news show. Thank you for everyone who sent in stuff into the news show. Obviously in the DMs, look through every single one of those. So we're massively appreciative of those. They make a huge difference to the news show. It is, we see so much more than we would ever see if we were just looking at this stuff for ourselves. So really appreciative of everyone who sends in stuff for the news show. Check out the Sika Strength app on iOS and Android, and hope you enjoyed today's episode.